And Sammy, I promised myself that I knew what I was going to say when this moment finally arrived. The problem is I don't know what to say. I'm actually sort of caught off guard. I think everything because the way the day started is I was waking up just about every hour. I would wake up and I would check my phone and I would go in, and then I saw this morning Braggs had tweeted out like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that they're going to let him go out there and do his press conference." And I'm like, "Oh, whatever." And I even tweeted out myself that this was a bigger embarrassment today than yesterday was, because the thought of like bringing back Matt Eberflus, who was already on thin ice to begin with, to do that, it really would have been worse than yesterday. And you know what? They finally made the right decision. Did it take them a little bit of time to get there? It did. Same thing that happened with Shane Waldron. Shane Waldron got 3 days. Matt Eberflus had to go out there and do a press conference, which I'm not going to apologize for. After what Matt Eberflus has done to us over the last 6 weeks, ever since London, I don't care that he had to go do that press conference today. If that makes me callous and cold, so be it. Matt Eberflus is going to be fine. He's got a contract that's going to pay him out, whether it's for another year, for another 2 years. He's going to go get his choice of defensive gigs. He might not be a defensive coordinator. He's going to be on somebody's staff next year. NFL, San Diego State, UNLV, Tech. Who knows? He's going to be fine. So as a human being, Matt Eberflus is a good person. He's a good guy. It's unfortunate when these kind of things happen, but you know what? The Bears did the right decision for their business, and it's time for them to move on. And Sammy, let's go ahead and start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Rank.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
Brought to you by Circa Sports Illinois, the sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to a very special edition of the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank. Matt Eberflus has been fired, and forgive me for those of you who are watching via YouTube. I've been kicked outside. Christmas is officially thrown up in the house inside, so I've been forced outside. Not that I'm complaining right now. Nice view, nice day. Sitting here with you, watching some people tee off here at Royal number 4, seeing how that's going. Not great for them. But listen, for us, again, and I'm not to separate the supposed callousness of like, hey, like you shouldn't celebrate somebody losing their gig. He's really not. He's getting paid. And if rumors are true that he had a 5-year contract, he's going to get paid for 2 more years. He's going to sign on to be a consultant somewhere. You know, he was a coach at like Missouri. Like he's bounced around. He's done all the coaching gigs. So he knows what he's doing. He's going to be just fine. Matt Eberflus, good human being, not a great head coach. It's similar. You know, like my son who I can see right there, wonderful human being. Love that boy. I don't want either one of them coaching the Chicago Bears. My friend Patrick Claybon, great person. I don't want him piloting the space shuttle. There's certain things that you should or should not do. And I know it's very cold and it's very callous to do that. And unfortunately, it's Matt Eberflus. And I'll be honest with you. I gave him the benefit of the doubt coming into the season when believe me, I wanted Jim Harbaugh. I'm on record. I wanted Jim Harbaugh. But I understood the theory behind keeping Matt Eberflus and was in on it. And even when we used to see those odds about like, hey, these are the odds of the first coach to be fired, which wasn't Matt Eberflus. Like somebody else was fired, right? Yeah. Oh no, the Saints coach, Dennis Allen, was fired. But I remember looking at those lists like, Matt Eberflus shouldn't be fired. He's not a total disaster. He totally was. The odds were correct. And speaking of the odds, the world's largest sports book in Las Vegas is right at your fingertips in Illinois. The Circa Sports app is sports betting the way it should be. Experience high betting limits, better money line splits, the best in-game wagering, and of course, it goes without saying, the best customer service of any sports book out there. And by the way, as an organization, that does things the right way. It's Circa Sports. And Derek Stevens and his brother Greg, they do a wonderful job. Download your new bookie today. Go to thecircasports.com. Download the app. And if you have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or better yet, text ILGAMB to 233234. So Matt Eberflus is gone. And let's talk about that's fine. I want to take a moment, though, and thanks to everybody who joined us after the game yesterday. Great turnout for our post-game wrap-up. I think the anger for a lot of people. And the good news is I went back and I watched the game finally, and it was even worse upon the second one. You know, like sometimes you romanticize things. I used to have some terrible jobs. When I was coming up through the ranks, you know, I remember working at a job at it wasn't Enterprise, it was Hertz. And I remember living in the moment of it, hating like almost every second of it. But then now you're like, it wasn't too bad. We drove around. Brand new cars. My friend was working with me. He was in a different branch, but like, no. Sometimes we romanticize the past. There's no romanticizing anything that happened yesterday. It was just a complete, and I saw this word thrown around by just about everybody, coaching malpractice. And the interesting thing is it's usually the Bears fans out there complaining, I can't believe this is happening to us, blah, blah, blah. And, but no, it was the fans of other teams, people who have no connection to Chicago were coming out. People were, people I've never heard from in years were reaching out to me. I even remember my sister and I were talking. I said, you know what? I go, if the cigarettes hadn't gotten Dad, the Bears would have yesterday. So I guess we're good now. But it's one of those things that everybody who follows football, who is connected with football, believes that was one of the worst endings that you can ever imagine an NFL team going through. And the worst part of it was, and forgive me, I don't know if it was Lance Briggs who said this, but I think it was our friend Alex Brown, who's like, usually we expect the Lions to do that happens to the Lions. That doesn't happen to us. But now we are that team. We're the bottom feeder, for a number of years. Before the Chargers brought in Jim Harbaugh, there was always a thing like, they're going to Charger this. So I've seen this before. I've seen it up close and personal, like plenty of times. Like this was the kind of loss that would typically be reserved for the Lions or the Chargers. We're the Lions and Chargers now. We're the Browns. We're that team. We can't sit here. We have the second most NFL championships. It doesn't matter because we are now that team where bad things are going to happen to us. And thankfully, we got rid of the person who needed to go. I remember years ago, I actually had Charger season tickets because it used to be fun to go down there. They had the LaDainian Tomlinson. Like, you'd be a crazy person not to go to those games. There's a lot of fun. And they had Norv Turner as the head coach. And like Norv Turner hung around forever. Norv Turner actually went through a season like Eberflus is going through right now and got another year. So I think Bears fans shouldn't take it for granted that they finally did the right thing and pulled the plug. Although Sears Tower is reporting that that Ryan Poles wanted him gone after the New England Patriots game, which if that's true, then that's a positive check mark in the ledger of Ryan Poles. And but if not, why did you bring him back anyways? That's first. You're the one who brought him back. Like, you cannot be, you can't be the one who here's the thing about Ryan Poles. You can't be the person who hands your child a can of paint and then gets upset when the kid starts painting the walls. Like, what did you expect? You're the one who put him in that position. You can't blame the child. The child's going to do what the child's going to do. You put him in this spot. You gave him the extra opportunity, and you should have reset it. And we might be getting a chance here because we'll get into this in a second about potential coaches moving forward. By the way, in case you missed it, Thomas Brown is going to be the interim head coach. Our friend Joey Chrysopoulos did point out on CHGO Monday night that, like, there's been 3 times in NFL history where an interim coach has taken over, been hired, and then led a team to the playoffs. And Antonio Pierce is not making a great case for it right now. I don't care about any of that. Again, we'll get to that in a moment. So Matt Eberflus needed to go. It had to happen. will remember. I don't know how you'll remember the Matt Eberflus era. It'll be fondly considered alongside of the Mark Trestman era. I know somebody said, like, well, what about Matt? Matt Nagy at least got the team to the playoffs a couple of times. So he did have that going for him. By the way, there are people teeing off. I guess I should, I don't know. Hopefully I'm not. They're used to it. Just when you're playing with whatever. So it's great. He's gone. I totally lost my train of thought. But the thing of it had to be done. We need to move on. Ryan Poles, like, you're still complicit in this. You have not. You're working your way into our good graces, but that was a disaster yesterday. This needed to happen. I did want to talk about a couple of things that I noticed in the rewatch of that game. By the way, Caleb Williams is definitely great. If you are watching the games critically, and I know a lot of you likely tuned out and didn't watch the second half. I think that anybody that's going after like Big Cat or anybody or me or whomever, Caleb's not that, like, really? You watched that game and thought that Caleb Williams is not good. You know how many quarterbacks have thrown multiple touchdown passes against the Lions this year? One, Caleb Williams. That's it. Caleb Williams is the only, and he did 3 times, right? 3? Am I thinking about that? Or 3? At least 2. I've watched it again. I'm blacking out during these games. I don't know. And yeah, DJ had one. Yeah, right? Yeah, what? Oh, God, why am I losing my mind? In any event, was it 3? It was 2. Who cares? He threw multiple touchdown passes against the Lions. Sammy's probably telling me in the comments. Rank, it was this. Why am I losing my mind? What did Sammy say? Please retweet. I did retweet it. Goodness gracious, Sammy. Watching that game over again, watching Caleb Williams operate, I think, and we're going to overlook this, Caleb Williams started that drive from the 1-inch line. There was a 3rd and long that he converted, moved the team down the field, got him into position. He, I'm not a crazy person. It is 3 touchdowns. What DJ Moore called it, obviously. Over the shoulder, of course. Whew. A lot's been going on. This is what happens when you wake up every hour, refreshing your phone, like, nope, not fired yet, not fired yet. Wanted to be the first one to tweet that. Because sometimes you sit here and being on the West Coast, God, what was the story that broke? Where I was like the only one up, like tweeting about this. I'm like, hey, I'm the only one tweeting about this. I went to bed and then there's 90,000 tweets on it when I wake up in the morning. Thought that was going to happen last night, but it didn't. But it happened this morning. So Caleb Williams, though, played so tremendously. And obviously nobody's going to remember that because of the way that the game ended. And it's unfortunate because we should remember that because he was in command. He got it. And by the way, we had our backup tackle who was blown up on a play call that I didn't necessarily love. I didn't love the RPO. They should have done something. It's 2nd and 20. First of all, stop calling penalties. Jesus. There were 3 calls. A Cole Kmet pick play, which, I mean, Cole's got to be better on that. But that point of the game, like, whatever. Just, Cole's got to just keep running. Like, Cole's a big guy. Tell the defender to run around him. I don't even know why that's a penalty. Secondly, the defense, and then our own drive was extended because of defensive pass interference, which at that point, you're like, you know what? If you don't call the pick play, then you can have the defensive pass interference back. I would be happy with neither one of those being called. And they just, there's a weird thing that sometimes happens. You just let the players go out there and play football. Yeah, that's weird. Let them go out. We don't need to see the officials. Like, I know you want to take over these games. It's Thanksgiving. You have families. You want to get your screen time so your family knows that you're out there in Detroit calling an NFL game. We don't need to see you. Take all the time that you need in the first 3 quarters, but especially the last 4 minutes of the game. Let the players play. Let the players decide it. That's always been my mantra. And I know it's like, well, if you don't call this in the first quarter, why? Shut up. I don't care. Let the players decide the game. So there were so many things going on. I don't think the play call was great. Everything melted down. And by the way, this is the worst part that nobody's going to talk about. I think actually I saw one person on Twitter mention this. That ball that he threw to Roma Dunze, if Roma Dunze runs with authority and with aggression, he could have caught that ball. And I mean, we probably wouldn't be here. Like, Matt Eberflus would not have been fired. And who knows? And I would rather, believe me, I would have rather have won that game. And I would have rather have won it on one of those fluky things. I know a lot of you will be like, no, I'm glad because Eberflus is gone and we needed to make that move and we needed to do that. Okay, fine. God, he was so close. Caleb, though, he knew. Like, he knows. He's not calling the time. It's not him. The coach should have jumped out there at around the 24-second mark. You're like, hold on. Because you want to call timeout. And I think 24 seconds, I think 18 seconds is about the cutoff where run a play up the middle, not run it, but like throw a pass over the middle because they'll give you the middle. Take what they give you. Have Cairo and everybody ready to go. You guys run out there, boom, go kick the field goal, boom, tie it up, go to overtime, lose the coin flip, let Jared Goff drive down the field and score a touchdown, which is that's what would have happened. But still, a lot of things. So I don't blame Caleb. I don't do that. But now, you know what? None of that matters because that's behind us. The key now is the future. And as I mentioned minutes ago, Thomas Brown is going to be the interim head coach for the Chicago Bears. A great opportunity for him to go down there and really prove himself. And I think yesterday illustrates why you want to give these guys chances to go out there and kind of show themselves what they do when you have somebody on the sideline who's called like, we need to see him in situations like yesterday because he's up in the booth. Okay. So who knows what he was saying in the headset. Now he's going to be on the field and he's going to be able to give a chance. He's going to be able to demonstrate his 4-minute coaching, when to take timeouts, the strategy to use when you go in for two, all that stuff. Thomas Brown is going to be able to go out there and build his resume for that. And I know a lot of people who are probably in this chat right now, and forgive me for not getting to you. I know a lot of people who are going to be like, oh, they want Ben Johnson, which is fine. And I understand where you're coming from with Ben Johnson, but remember, and I say this as somebody who wanted Matt Nagy as the head coach. Listen, I'm on record. I like the idea of Matt Nagy. The theory behind it was sound. The theory behind Matt Nagy is the same theory behind Ben Johnson. Absolutely the same. So what you're asking for when you're saying that you want Ben Johnson as your head coach is that you want another version of Matt Nagy because it's the exact same situation. Great coordinator who's playing with a dynamic head coach, an alpha leading the charge and allows that offensive coordinator to go out there and do his thing. There is a realistic possibility. There is a greater chance of Ben Johnson being Matt Nagy than of him being Jimmy Johnson. And it's the God's honest truth. You do not know how he is going to react to being a head coach. So before everybody decides that it's Ben Johnson or bust, just remember, we've hired, I'm not going to say Trestman. Trestman's not fair, but it's a lot like Matt Nagy. Actually, it is a lot like Trestman too. You want to be honest with yourselves. So before you fall in love with a coordinator who you've never seen as a head coach on any level, not to my knowledge, he might have been a college coach somewhere. I could go back and check. This would be great where I would actually research this kind of stuff. But for me, the idea needs to be Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown is going to get an opportunity to go out there and prove himself. Now, the play call on the penultimate play, that RPO doesn't give me a great feeling. Although I would love to know, because we're not talking to him, that if Thomas Brown was really hopeful that Caleb Williams was going to recognize the blitz, or that his guy was going to get blown up, recognize the blitz, hand the ball off, get back into field goal range, wind it down, because it would have been third down. Yeah, you had to. It wouldn't have been a situation like against Minnesota. You would have had to have taken the field goal there because you just had to. But now we're going to get a chance to see Thomas Brown. Now, if Thomas Brown goes out there and the team responds, there's a really good chance that they win this coming week. There's a good chance they win in week 14. I actually really like their chances. There's a great chance they beat Seattle. They're going to be on the road. They got the Lions at home, which I think is a good chance to win. They got the Packers to close the season. That's going to be a tough call, especially if the Packers are going for the playoffs. Although I would love to see somebody match Matt LaFleur, mano a mano. Because, Matt LaFleur reminds me a lot of Dolph Ziggler in the fact that, like, he is the best of the mid-carders. Like, I don't think that Matt LaFleur is an elite coach. I think he's better than all the guys who are sort of good. He's better than he's better than McDonald and all those other guys. He's not better than Kyle Shanahan by any stretch of the imagination. But he's better than those guys who are like, oh, they're good coaches. I think what the Bears need to do and what they need to focus on is having an alpha male who is leading this organization who can handle being the coach of the Chicago Bears. And not everybody can do it. So for me, before we talk, don't even mention Ben Johnson over the next number of weeks because there is no need to. There is no need to talk about Ben Johnson or anything like that. And for me, I think that this is Thomas Brown's opportunity. I don't want to think about anybody else. Now, if we go through the next couple of weeks and it turns out that Thomas Brown is not the guy, fair enough. You've been given your opportunity. That's on you. It's ultimately on you. And it can't be this situation either. And I'm believe me, I'm not going to do what we've been doing where you're like, well, Caleb's playing better, but we're losing these games. You need to go out there and you got to win. And for me, and this is going to be my thing, this will be my dream. Thomas Brown goes out there, knocks it out of the park, leaves no doubt that he's Sean McVay, he's Kyle Shanahan, he's Mike Tomlin. He's one of those guys. That is my dream number one. Dream number two is Mike Vrabel becomes the head coach. I'm in there. I'm in on Mike Vrabel. I just feel like when you think of Chicago and you think of the guys who could be a leader of men in a great city like Chicago, Mike Vrabel to me stands out as somebody who would be perfect in Chicago. But again, but similar, if I'm asking you not to talk about Ben Johnson, I'm going to tell you I'm not going to talk about Mike Vrabel. This is all going to be Thomas Brown's opportunity, and this is going to be all Thomas Brown's chance because I need him to help me make sure that my Caleb Williams trading cards are going to be worth a lot of money. And by the way, at Windy City Sports Cards, they specialize in all things Chicago sports, whether you are a fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, or Sky. They have got you covered with an extensive selection of sports memorabilia and collectibles. And in addition to their Chicago focus items, they've got items for everything. You want a Randy Savage autographed t-shirt? I don't know if he has that. He would find it for you. That's what Mike does at Windy City Sports Cards. So remember them for anything, any sort of sports collectible, signed helmets, signed cards, whatever it is. Windy City Sports Cards will get it for you. By the way, Sammy, I didn't ask, is there any question or anything, if there's a super chat or anything like that? Because I feel like I've covered it. Do you think offensive or defense changes much this week? Oh, thanks, man. Sorry, not my glass. Nino, 82. Oh, what's up? Look at that. Handsome man. I think that we're going to see a lot of the same stuff going on. We're probably going to see the bend but don't break, which is frustrating. But again, you know what's funny? As much as that defense, like as much as that defense is frustrating, sort of works. Like the Lions didn't score a lot of, like we held the Lions again. We held the Lions to a pretty respectable number. We've held the Packers to a pretty respectable number. And it's not like they're, and I know, but like forcing a turnover is part of football. The Bears defense, for as much as they played in the first quarter, first half, especially, played pretty well. And offensively, I think we'll see hopefully more of second half Caleb and less of first half Caleb. But listen, if this is going to be our life, where we start off slow and finish strong, I don't know if my heart can take it. So I would like to get some of those touchdowns in the first quarter. So I hope so. I don't think we'll see much, but I think we'll be better operationally. And you know what? I will say this too. With Thomas Brown, I think we're going to see us coming out a little bit more prepared, I guess is the way to put it. I mean, if you think about how bad Matt Eberflus has been in the fourth quarter and in the end of the game situations, he might not be great at getting his team motivated and ready to go and get started. So actually, I would like to see us be a little bit more aggressive offensively in the beginning, and at least like don't shy away from the run. I thought that DeAndre Swift actually had a pretty good game, all things considered. Was there anything else, Sammy? Because we might. How about? I don't want to ignore anybody, but I do want to give everybody an opportunity. So I'll just come in here with some closing thoughts. In that, and it's this. I know a lot of people will be sitting there and they'll look at my predictions from the beginning of the season, and they'll be like, "Oh, you were the idiot that thought that this team should win 12 games." I really truly believe that over the last month or so, outside of the games at Arizona and at New England, that outside of the coaching malpractice, which I'm now saying, this Bears team showed that it does have the talent to be a double-digit win team. So if anything, for those of you who came out and specifically said, Matt Eberflus, I credit you. I gave him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, which I thought he earned. I thought that last year, losing those three heartbreakers that cost us that pushed us from 7 wins to 10 wins, I thought he was going to learn and he was going to grow and he was going to get his stuff together. It never materialized. And I think at some point you are who you are. Like you as a coach, you are who you are. And I know I break this down at the most simplest levels of AYSO. It's like, I sit here and question things like when we lose a game or anything like that, I go back and self-scout and think about it probably more than I should. Not in the fact that I get mad at kids or anything like that, but like thinking like introspect, like personally, like it's obviously me. Like, you know what? Like kids are kids. Players are players. What are you as a coach doing that it's not getting your team prepared or anything like that? And I just don't think Matt Eberflus did enough of that. And I don't think he did enough soul searching. And I never appreciated the fact that whenever he went out there in his post-game pressers, he just could never take accountability until it was far too late. I remember sitting in that room at State Farm Stadium in Arizona when he was like, "Oh, that was on me." And you're like, all right, like you're now finally admitting that you've been wrong forever. And now you're just finally admitting it. I didn't appreciate that. And so then I just think that there's some people who are capable of being leaders of men. And there are some people who, you're a better assistant. Like David Lee Roth is a front man. And there's no denying that he's going to be a front man. And then there's going to be people like Travis Barker, who is a great drummer, one of the greatest drummers of all time. But he's not going to sit there. He's not going to, he's not going to be as outgoing as Tom DeLonge or Mark Hoppus. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, you're great at what you do and you should do that. But if we were expecting Travis Barker to carry interviews, to go on Conan O'Brien's podcast and carry that, it's just not going to happen. And I think that happens sometimes with some of these coordinators, which is why, again, I'm telling you, and I told you I would not bring his name up again, but listen, this is why. Do not put your entire hopes and dreams of the Chicago Bears in a hot-named offensive coordinator that we've never seen direct an NFL franchise. We've never seen it. We have opportunities to find guys who have proven themselves, and that's why I'm so excited for Thomas Brown to go out there in this limited sample size. But for me, I think we will get enough of an answer. We will see enough to determine whether he is our guy or not moving forward and how the team responds and all that good stuff. And I don't know. You're going to be like, well, and Antonio Pierce, again, I know that's going to be the one that people will be like, well, look at what happened here. We don't have Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. We got Caleb Williams, and that dude is the real deal. And I'm so excited for the future of the Chicago Bears. Like a couple of hours ago, I wouldn't have even thought to wear anything Bears related. I'm not wearing this stuff. I was running around in a Travis Matthew hat. I wasn't even wearing Bears stuff. I was over it. I was so disgusted with this franchise. And now I could not be more excited. And I appreciate the fact that we finally got there. And honestly, I don't even care. I'm sorry if it was cold-blooded to make him go out there and do his press conference, but you know what? You're obligated. There's probably a sponsor. It's probably sponsored if I'm thinking about this correctly, it's probably a sponsored thing. And maybe you could have just had Thomas Brown go out and do it, but that's not going to be Thomas Brown's introduction. It's probably a sponsorship deal. Oh, that makes sense. It doesn't matter. It's a new opportunity for the Chicago Bears. Are we still in the hunt? We could finish 9-8, people. Let's go 9-8 and make the playoffs. Let's do that. Let's have the miracle run. Let's have a miracle run for the Chicago. Let's do that. Let's go 9-8. Let's go win 5 consecutive games. Knock the Packers out of the playoffs. Knock the Vikings record's probably too good, but we could end the season. We could end the season of the 49ers. We could end the season of the Seattle Seahawks. We could go out there and beat all of our rivals and finish 500 in the division. Let's go out and do that. Let's focus on that. So you know what? Have a great Thanksgiving weekend. I'm going to go out and enjoy see, now I can go out and enjoy Aaron Rodgers looking like a fool because I feel like we have our house in order now. So it's a great day for the Chicago Bears. Thank you to everybody who joined us here and everybody who's downloaded and listening to this. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend with friends and family, and appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for being here. And that's all I got. Bear down, and Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcast. Brought to you by Circa Sports Illinois.